Hey guys, Rhett here. What is going on? Thanks for watching. If you are a Section 8 investor, if you are thinking about getting into Section 8, I want you to sit down in your chair and put your seatbelt on. Because what I'm about to do is I am going to rewire your brains into reality. And a bunch of my clients right now are probably watching this and have a smile on their face because they've all been there. But what I'm about to do is I am going to separate all the lies that you've heard about Section 8, particularly ones that you find on social media. And I'm going to set your mind straight on how to buy these units, what it's going to take, and we're going to take all the fairyland, unrealistic, untrue ideas that you're getting pumped, and we're going to throw them out the window, and we're going to start fresh, okay? So there is a ton of misinformation about Section 8 that is circulating everywhere, and I'm not talking about information regarding tenants will ruin your units, or Section 8 stinks, or this and that. That's not what I'm talking about. We've already destroyed all those myths for years on this channel. Years and years, we've talked about how all that stuff's untrue. I'm more particularly talking about from a number standpoint, a deal evaluation standpoint. Information that you guys are using to deduce whether you want to get into Section 8 investing or not. And that is the most important information that you need to know to understand whether this is going to be the right investment for you or not. So if you have an idea of what you're going to get for rent, or you have an idea about how much you're going to have to put down in terms of a loan, or what kind of financing you're going to use, if you're getting the wrong information about that, it's going to cripple you, or you're going to spend all this money, get to a certain point and realize, holy cow, this isn't the return that I was anticipating. This wasn't the money that I budgeted. I can't afford this. So I'm going to set the record straight here. Please, as always, guys, leave your questions, comments, everything below, and we're going to go from there, okay? So I have a bunch of things that I want to talk about, and this is the contrarian approach, which is shocking that this is like not able to be found, because it's the truth. And you guys know we keep it real here. So the first thing I want to talk about is the ability to buy houses for between $7,000 and $12,000 down. Okay, you can't do it. You can't do it. The only way you can do it is through creative financing and seller financing, okay? Let's talk about why fundamentally those are not always the best route to go in this asset class. And the idea of seller financing and creative financing is more prevalent when we're talking about large multifamily buildings, apartment buildings, condo buildings, that sort of thing. And the reason it's more prevalent in that kind of situation is because when you have a seller who can afford to carry a loan for you, then you can be creative with the financing. We did a creative financing deal last month where a client of mine bought a apartment building for $3.2 million, put $500,000 down, got a loan for $1.5 million, and did a $1.2 million seller carry at a 10% interest clip. In that situation, the owner of a multi-million-dollar building can afford to be the lender for 12 months. And this was an 18-month loan until the rates get better, commercial rates go down, and then they can refinance. That's when seller financing and creative financing works. And I have really good friends who are in the commercial industry who do that all the time. And it's very, very common because the buyers usually have a good amount of money and the sellers have a good amount of money. With Section 8, a lot of these sellers, guys, they can't afford to carry a loan for 12 months. They can't afford to carry a loan for 5 years with a balloon payment, or 2 years with a balloon. So they need the money. I mean, a $50,000 house someone's selling it because they need the money. A $70,000 house, they're selling it most of the time. It's been in the family for a while, and they're old, and it's for their kids, or they're in a situation where they have to move, and they don't have a lot of assets, so they're selling it. They need that money right now. So from a fundamentally logistical standpoint, as it relates to Section 8 and the environments that we're buying homes in, a lot of the sellers cannot afford to carry a loan for a certain amount of time. So that's the first part about it, is creative financing is extremely hard to do in a lot of the areas that we're buying Section 8 units. If you do come across seller financing deals, a lot of times those seller finance deals are they're being sold to you because investors own the houses. So then basically we're getting into a seller finance deal that an investor's giving us, which is going to make sure that the way that deal is structured, the investor's going to make money, I promise. And the whole premise of seller financing is for you to get good deals. And I promise you, if an investor is the one putting you in that seller finance or creative finance deal, it's not going to be very good for you. It's going to be really good for them. There's no lender, private lender, who is going to allow you, private lender, conventional lender, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac lender, DSCR lender, that's going to let you put down that little amount of money. It's just not going to happen. You have to put down 20% for investment properties. You might find one lender out there that'll do 15%. It's very, very rare to do it, and your circumstances have to fit their criteria to allow 15%. But for all your numbers, you need to run a minimum of 20% down. So putting down $7,000, I mean, that's absurd. Especially if it's not a creative financing deal. With the creative financing deals are needle in a haystack. And then you have people pushing creative financing. So then you have all of these people who are going to the same 5 markets, who are calling the same people, asking for seller finance deals. It's just, you're not going to do it. If you do it, you're certainly not going to scale. And if you are planning on scaling, it's going to take you 100 years at that rate. So not a good way to do it. Can you buy houses for between $7,000 and $12,000 down? No, you can't. The only way that you can do it is if you find a $60,000 house that you're putting 20% down on, which is $12K. That house would have to be in great shape. It would have to be a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac conventional loan, and that would be not including closing costs, which on an investment loan like that are going to have high origination fees. So you're still going to be paying somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 in closing costs, which is going to still put your down payment all in with all of your other fees between $15,000 and $20,000. It's not true. So don't listen to that. If you don't have $20,000 in your bank account, you should not be considering going into this. You are going to find very quickly, the expensive way, that you need more money than you're hearing. Okay, that's number one. And I wrote things down because I didn't want to forget anything. So the biggest lie in this entire thing, or lie, I don't want to call it lie, misinformation, is regarding HUD FMR. Okay, guys. HUD FMR is a maximum that HUD can pay you. The number you see when you look on these websites, it is irrelevant. Take that number, throw it out the window. It literally has nothing to do with how much you're going to get paid, okay? The amount of money you're going to get paid is going to be based on comps in that exact area that you're buying that Section 8 rental in, okay? This is the biggest piece of misinformation, and this is what people are taking this HUD FMR and running their financial models and their numbers, thinking they're going to get $1,700 for a 3-bedroom house, and then they're getting $1,100 because HUD FMR is a ceiling, guys. If you guys are if you follow sports, salary caps in NBA, in NFL. Every team has a salary cap. You can't spend more than that. You can't go over it. If you go over it, you get penalized. In this, you just can't go over it. Congress, they set a limit for this, and that's it. It doesn't go over that. So that's the ceiling. They're not going to pay you the ceiling. They pay you significantly under that. And also, in that maximum HUD payment, there are utility stipends. So what HUD's going to do is they're going to look at the average utility cost per month per square foot for that exact zip code. So they're going to multiply the square foot cost for gas, electric, and water and sewer, multiplied by the square footage in that zip code to find out what the average cost is per utility. They're going to add those 4 utilities up, water, sewer, electrical, gas. They're going to add them up, and then they're going to subtract that right off the top of that FMR number, okay? Then you say you're looking at HUD and FMR $1,700, and the combination cost of all the utilities are $300. That drops you down to $1,400. That's now your ceiling. That's the maximum you're going to get. In order to get that $1,400, the other rental comps for Section 8 in that area need to also be at $1,400. Otherwise, if they're at $1,100, guess what? You're getting $1,150. You might get $1,200 if you're lucky, but still, that's not even close to that $1,700 you ran your numbers on. HUD FMR has nothing to do with what you're going to get paid. There's a lot that has to come out of that number before it goes into your bank account, okay? Some people will say, well, HUD FMR, you take the $1,700 and then you pay for utilities. If you do that, you will lose money, I promise. Because if tenants are not responsible for the utilities, okay, now HUD's giving them a stipend. What they do is they keep it under that stipend amount to make sure that they're always in control of the utilities. If you're paying for the utilities in the winter, your electrical bill is going to be $400 a month. In the summer, your water bill is going to be very, very high. All of your bills are going to be high. It's not going to make sense. You're going to end up making less, okay? Do not do it. Do not focus on FMR. To find out what units are actually renting for in these areas, you have to know what other Section 8 units are going for. So a lot of times, because we have clients in all these different markets who are successfully cash flowing, we know exactly what they're getting for rent. So I can tell you exactly on which streets, what they're getting, how much they're getting, and then we can base our numbers on that because we have direct knowledge of the markets, okay? That's extremely important. That is the one of the biggest pieces of misinformation around Section 8 right now. Number 3, turnkey houses. Guys, there's no such thing as a turnkey house. Absolutely no such thing as a turnkey house. With Section 8, we have to abide by NSPIRE regulations. NSPIRE is basically the standard of quality and control for how HUD operates. Okay, you guys can look it up. NSPIRE, NSPIRE, NSPIRE standards. Okay. In order to pass a Section 8 inspection, everything on the NSPIRE checklist needs to be signed off on. Okay, that is your traditional HUD inspection checklist. If you have ever built your own house or bought a house, you guys know when you're walking through a house that once it's built or once you buy it, you go through and do what's called a final walkthrough. And you can find things wrong in a house, whether it's a $40,000 house or whether it's a $10 million house. You can find things that are wrong. And to think that you can buy a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 house and someone's going to walk through it and not find things that are wrong is crazy. We're going to find things that are wrong. Nothing is turnkey. The NSPIRE checklist is like 10 pages long. They're going to find things. They're going to make the unit. They're going to want to make the unit as safe as possible for those tenants. So you're going to have to put some money into these things. It's also smart to put money into them. What is turnkey if you're paying maintenance year after year after year because you didn't do things right up front? What's the point of turnkey? There's no point of turnkey. If you're buying, you can buy a turnkey house with a 19-year-old HVAC system, 60-year-old electrical wiring, 50-year-old galvanized steel pipe or lead pipe plumbing, and a 25-year-old roof. And just because someone's living in there, you can buy it. It's turnkey. You're not spending any money immediately. But guess what? Those capital expenditures that you're going to pay over the next 15 years are going to smash you. So turnkey doesn't exist. If you are buying turnkey, then it's only turnkey until you get it to the Section 8 inspection, because you're going to fail and you're going to get a nice fat punch list of things that you need to do that's going to cost you money making that house not turnkey. And if you do get struck by lightning and you do pass a Section 8 inspection without having to spend a penny, you are going to face pretty significant CapEx over the next 5 to 10 years, okay? So no such thing as turnkey. Next, 40% and higher cash-on-cash returns. This is all based on you being able to be into a property for between $7,000 and $12,000 all in. you can't, it's not possible. It isn't possible. Some people say, well, what if I do a VA loan? For my veterans out there, thank you for your service. But what if I use a VA loan? Well, VA loans are owner occupied loans only. Same thing with FHA loans. FHA loans, you can put down 3%, 5%, less than 20%, or any combination of that. And those are owner occupied loans only. So you can't use a owner occupied loan for an investment property. So it's out the window. You can't be into these for $7,000 to $12,000. If you could cash on cash returns be that high? They could be. But if you're using traditional financing and you're only putting down $7,000 to $12,000, then your loan amount is going to be really high. And the higher your loan amount is, the higher your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance are, your PITI, okay, which are our expenses every month when we finance a property, which means your payment every month is going to be really high, and it's going to eat into all your cash flow. So 40% cash on cash returns would basically mean you're going to get your money back in 2.5 years. In your cash out of pocket will be repaid with the net income that you derive over a 2.5 year period. You run the numbers. I mean, how are you getting that number with 7% interest rates? You're not. Our cash on cash returns are going to go like this always. They're always going to fluctuate. They're going to be based on how many bedrooms, what market we're buying in, what Section 8's paying for our units, what the current interest rates are, and our ability to keep debt low and increase rents to get rents high. So our focus on cash returns is going to constantly go up and down. It's going to go up and down as we refinance and get into cheaper debt. It's going to go up as we continue to file for rental increases. And over the years, when we were doing this in 2020, 2021, our cash on cash returns were 25% all day long. And then when rates went up to 8%, our cash on cash returns went down to about 11% average. And now they're back up to about 16%, not including appreciation. So 40% asinine, anything over that, outrageous. Take it, throw it out the window, grain of salt, just like all this other stuff, okay? And then lastly, the loans. And we touched on this a little bit, but DSCR lenders are very, very particular. And a lot of people out there say, oh, well, just get a DSCR loan. You don't need credit. Or get a DSCR loan. You don't have to show tax returns or anything like that. You have 100%, guys, DSCR loans, you have to show your credit score. They don't need tax returns. They don't need W-2s. They don't need 1099s. They're bank statement loans. They're going to look at your bank statements. They're going to make sure that you have money. And they're going to make sure that if you don't have money, you're making money to still be able to pay the loans. DSCR loan is a debt service coverage ratio loan, okay? Which means that the loan, they are going to make sure that the monthly payment is a certain multiple of the money that comes in. That is all true. What is untrue about it is that a DSCR lender is going to give you a loan on a $50,000 house. They're not. Or a $30,000 house. They are not. They have very, very rigid minimums. Their minimums are much stronger than Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or conventional loans that are backed by the government. Private DSCR loans have private investors. So origination fees are 50% higher on average than government-backed Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans. DSCR loans, because they're investor-backed, they're private. It's like going to a private company. Hey, these are our rules. Take it or leave it. So they have minimums, and we work with DSCR lenders that go lower than anybody in the country, and they still would never, ever, ever allow you to only put down $5,000 in a deal, $10,000 in a deal. Now, in a cash-out refinance, all day long, we do the Burr method, and we're into a house for $100, it appraises for $150, $160. They cut you a check for 75% LTV, and you get more money out than you have in. That's one thing. We're doing that reverse. But up front, if you get a DSCR loan, nobody's going to write you a DSCR loan for a $50,000 purchase price, because you're going to put down 20% of that, and the loan's going to be so small. The loan's going to be too tight. So no one's writing you a 30-year fixed-rate DSCR loan for $40,000 at 7% interest. Those investors aren't making any money, and therefore, if they're not making money, they're not going to allow you to do it. So, guys, please leave your questions, comments below. I know I just kind of flipped you on your head a little bit with kind of getting some of this misinformation right. But please, if you want to get into this, do it with the right people. If you want to do it with me and my team, send me an email in the description below. We'll get you started, and we'll see you next time.